All right, everyone, let's get started. Thank you so much for attending our webinar presentation today. Today, we are looking at high-end residential design from a bit of a forecast perspective. And so to kick it off, we are going to look a little bit about why we dug into this topic for this feature. And our real inspiration here is that design trends take cues from this high-end residential world. High-end residential design tends to prioritize the end user, which results in a bit of a heightened focus on creating personalized and truly human-centric spaces. We also, when we look at these luxury homes, they are, of course, using typically larger budgets, which gives greater design freedom, and then that gives designers a big realm to explore in this design process. So oftentimes these residential projects become a source of inspiration throughout all other design fields. And so we're going to look at a little bit of those ideals here today in this presentation. We'll break this presentation out into macro trends and micro trends. And so first we'll look at some of our macro trends here. The first trend that we really wanted to explore is this idea of sanctuary. We've been talking a lot about this if you've been with us through the last year or so of our forecast information, but wellness and self-care continues to be such a dominant trend and such a dominant force. And we're seeing this in the realm of homes and people's high-end residential homes specifically. They're being designed truly as these sanctuaries where people can go back to and feel safe, feel that this is a space that they have designed for themselves to unwind, to create, not only to unwind, but to proactively create health in their life. And not just physical health, but mental health, spiritual health as well. And so we're really seeing in these spaces that these high-end luxury residential homes, they're designing in almost like a home spa, but it's a more modern take on this. It's truly like a home wellness center. So we're seeing things like this VG shower. We're seeing these like beautiful indoor-outdoor bathrooms that have that true kind of resort feel almost. A lot of use of sauna, both infrared and steam. And so one example, which many on this call have probably seen, but Gwyneth Paltrow's home spa has made its way around the internet. And we still think that it is one of the best examples of creating this true sanctuary within one's home. And you can see just the beauty here and some of the amenities as well, having this shower experience, having these multiple plunge pools. And that is really what we're seeing. And it's setting the tone in this high-end luxury space for these trends to then trickle down into the rest of our design worlds. Again, something that we've been talking about, social wellness. We are seeing this in the personal luxury home market as well, where people are wanting to create these spaces, not just for themselves or their family, but to have people come over and gather. People are looking for ways to spend time together that are outside of our typical realm of going out, having a drink, having a meal. People are looking for something else to connect in a bit of a deeper way or in a bit of a new way. And wellness and some of these well-being activities is one of these ways. And so with this design, we're seeing these spaces in the home that are large enough and not just a personal space. They're large enough to invite people over. You can have a social gathering, a function. And these are things like the sauna. We're seeing that you may not necessarily put in a 1 or 2 person sauna, but you may put in a huge one and have a sauna party. This is something that we're seeing trickle over from European tradition and may make its way more into things that we're talking about later on. We wanted to highlight the Wellness Social Club Remedy Place. They have locations in California, they have location in New York City, and this concept is really built upon this idea of social wellness. It's this high-end social club where you go, but you don't go just to eat and drink or to work or to even work out. It's really about self-care and a lot of these amenities, but you're doing it with people socially. And they do it in such a luxe way. And that's why we really wanted to highlight it here, just to reinforce this concept of people really valuing this social wellness, well-being, but as an activity that you're doing with others, as a space to gather. We love the quote that they have on their website describing Remedy Place as your new happy hour, your new date spot, your new after work hangout. And that really kind of sums up this concept. As we delve more into this idea of wellness and well spaces within the high-end residential home, we're looking at this concept of EMF-free zones or low Wi-Fi zones. One example that we love is Aaron Paul's Idaho home, which was featured in AD a couple of years ago. We took a little screenshot here to put in the presentation, but they've made it really hard to get onto their Wi-Fi because when friends come over, when family comes over, and I think they were talking about their younger nieces or nephews, they want it to be difficult to get online so that people are forced to interact with each other. And that's a really interesting choice that people are making within their own home. And we're really inspired to see how that choice that lives in that residential world will trickle into other areas, more commercial and public areas of design. A few other examples, Miraval has this branded signage and collateral, this little cell phone sleeping bag, which is really cute, encouraging this unplugged experience. And so we know that in this luxury world, seeking these unplugged spaces and spaces away from the constant devices, the constant pings, is something that people are really valuing and designing their spaces around. A few examples of this in sort of through a social media, or maybe it's better said as an anti-social media lens, are featured here on this page. So the first one we have here is the Reading Room, and they are a exclusive San Diego based social club, and they have a strict digital use rule. After 5 p.m. you cannot use a laptop, and more than that, you're not allowed to share any images of the space on social media. Where these images came from, I don't know. Someone clearly took those, but really when you do dig into them online, you don't see anything posted. It is something that they actually enforce. And this is something that people are able to go and have privacy and not have to worry about being posted. We're seeing this sort of fly under the radar, have less of a brand image, and then that is kind of your image. So this is a trend that we're tracking as well. We do also love this concept here. This is Sarah Restaurant in Ontario, excuse me. But they have these niches in the tables where they're really encouraging diners to put their phone away. So it's, again, this concept of connecting with those around you and leaving your digital world aside for a while. Okay, well, pivoting away a little bit from our wellness and social well-being conversation, we're looking here at this idea of casual luxury. We talk a lot about, or maybe when some people think about luxe design or high-end design, they have images flash through their head of these very cold surfaces, angular surfaces, and that may be references from decades past. But we're really seeing that, and this page serves as a reminder that luxury can still be casual, cozy, warm, safe. And we point out here, this sort of follows the fashion trends that are leaning into casual comfort that feels less formal. Something that we've all seen and probably experienced is this way of dressing that is still luxe, still high end, but it's comfortable, it's approachable, it doesn't feel stuffy. And we're seeing our interior home spaces kind of follow that same vibe. This sort of picks up on that hygge trend, the Danish word used to acknowledge the atmosphere of warmth, well-being, coziness. And this is something that we're just seeing continue. People want these spaces to be safe. It is their home. They want this to be a usable space. It's not like the past where spaces were more on display or to be looked at, or it's like this room is only used on special occasions. These homes are wanting to be used, wanting to be spaces to gather. And so having them be comfortable, warm, welcoming is an important concept. Here we're talking about our macro trend in this high-end luxury residential design world as looking through outdoor rooms. Indoor, outdoor spaces, spaces that can flex to outdoor are so important. And we're just seeing this trend become more and more important as the years go on and people really prioritize nature, the way that it makes you feel to interact with the sun or natural light or greenery. And this is something that people are really designing their homes around and to incorporate. And so we love the use here that's highlighting these native materials and inspiration from the local spaces. One example here, we are looking at this sort of self-sufficient, in harmony with its surroundings, off-grid cabin kind of vibe. This home is solar powered, it harvests rainwater, it's oriented in a specific way so that airflow and temperature are conserving energy. And so we're really inspired by these sort of extreme examples that we see in architecture and in design of these homes that are built truly into the landscape and almost seek to become part of the landscape itself. They reinforce the hyper locality of where they're built. And this may be an extreme example, but we do think that this is a trend that we'll see sort of trickle down into this high-end residential world, and then from there trickle down into other realms of design, but really designing homes to live within this ecosystem of the landscape that they're built upon. We're excited to feature this idea here of collabs, brand collabs in art, in music, in fashion, home. We've all seen them everywhere. And this idea of co-creation or coming together to create sort of this unexpected result and generate buzz, we think is really exciting in our design world. And one example we have here is Jen Eyre and Kelly Wearstler. They collaborated to design concept kitchens. Actually, interestingly, this image you see here, this is all virtual. And so Jen Eyre partnered with Kelly Wearstler to design these virtual concept kitchens that complement Jen Eyre's new limited edition appliances, and quotes from their website, which we just love, to prove that the future of luxury is personal. This was a really interesting approach because we're delving into that sort of digital realm, virtual realm, where this doesn't actually exist in our 3D. The product does, but the collaboration itself does not. And so seeing how these spaces can be inspirational, we're combining so many things here to generate this buzz. We've got Kelly Wearstler, we've got a virtual space, we've got a limited edition. So it's really inspiring to see how we are evolving these designs to create this buzz and collaborating with others. And another example here, of course, Jason Wu for Brizo. This collaboration has been going strong since 2007, which is actually kind of crazy to think about. It seems like it's kind of always been with us, and it has, but it still has that forward-thinking edge that makes this collaboration live on and still be really exciting. Next trend we'll look at is biophilic design. We almost even hesitate to call this a trend because it has such lasting power that we don't see going away. But it's become something that is so acknowledged in every design, and it hasn't always been that way. This sort of human desire to connect with nature. We have a stat here about people who spend time in these spaces having greater levels of well-being, being more creative. But like we talked about before, people are really valuing designing their homes around these biophilic elements and taking cues from the natural setting where this home is being built, using native materials, native greenery, paying tribute to bodies of water that are there on or near the site. And so this is something that we're really inspired by, and of course have already seen trickle into more commercial design. And this is something that we truly think has staying power. One way that this trend is being expressed is through the use of plant stylists, and we have a few featured here. I'm sure many are familiar with Hilton Carter or Paloma Tepa of Plant the Future. And we're seeing this sort of response to this love of houseplants, this craze of plant influencers and plant parents all over YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, and all the new technologies and apps and shops that are opening to serve this need. But in this high-end luxury space, we're really seeing the use of hiring a plant stylist as a consultant to come in and set your space, take a look at your light exposure, and figure out where to place plants and not only to place them, but to truly style them as if you're working with any other kind of art curator. So loving this trend and excited to see more plant stylists pop up and be used and more well-known in these commercial spaces as well. That concludes our macro trend section. So we'll move to a few of our micro trends. Here we're looking at this concept of utility luxe. This is these luxe details that are making the functions of the home more delightful and bringing joy to those mundane everyday tasks. Looking at these beautiful finishes of sinks, looking at this use of stone, looking at these outlets that almost disappear into the material being used. These small touches that really elevate the overall design and we don't want to overlook. And so that's what's being highlighted here. We wanted to specifically call out this product or the spec, which we love. It's called 22 system outlets. And you can see here, these are a flush electrical system, super minimalistic outlets to really seamlessly flush mount into any wall surface. So you can see a few examples here of how they just disappear and how important is this as we find ourselves needing more and more outlets all the time. This page is all about celebrating our return of wall covering. We as designers love this trend coming back, but not only is wall covering coming back, but this mindset toward wallpaper in general has evolved from something that feels like the dreaded removal of wallpaper moving into a home or your grandma's or your great aunt's house to feel like this really new approach to really art. And we're seeing that as these new manufacturing techniques evolve, wall covering is evolving as well. So we're getting texture, we're getting use of new materials in wall covering, and that gives this very luxe look that really can transform a space with a semi-simple application of a wall covering. And so we have a few examples here that we really love. And then wanted to call out specifically Emma Chamberlain's bathroom. She has this really cool braided sort of banana tree bark wall covering that you can see in this use just totally transforms the space. Another micro trend here that we're focusing on is color. And we say here, we spent a decade or so really like whiting everything out. Everything was minimal. Everything was black, white, stark. We had a lot of those grays, cooler colors, and now we're bringing color back. And it's in new ways, artful ways. We're seeing colors emerge that we all now kind of consider to be a neutral, but really it's a color. And if you looked back 15 years ago, we would have been shocked at those colors that we're using now, which we're like, oh, it's a neutral. And so we're loving this return to color. A few examples here of colored fixtures. So we're seeing use of color in some new ways, new applications, which is really exciting. Another way that we're using color, but also texture and just bringing in more bold use of materials is through stone. We're moving away from sort of those standard stones toward these more bold and exotic stone that uses color. You see like these varied patterns. And so just moving away from some of that really stark and minimal look that we've seen for the past decade or so. And one more collab and highlight is Kara Woodhouse for ABC Stone. Her collection is super cool. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. But she teamed up with ABC Stone. They did what they call the Classic Rock Capsule Collection. And it's just a really cool collection that celebrates this beauty of these stones. And they're really exotic stones in this collection. So beautiful to check out and look at. And we couldn't resist sneaking in one more collab into this feature. So that does conclude our presentation today. I hope that you all enjoyed our presentation here about high-end luxury design and really how we're looking at this through the lens of having this design freedom, having these larger budgets in this luxury residential world, and seeing what's being done there so that we know what to expect or where to draw inspiration from as these trends trickle into the rest of the design realms. Thank you all so much for attending this webinar. If you haven't checked out our digital version of this, you can click through at your own time and really dig into each page and all the notes. And so we want to say thank you so much again for everyone for tuning in. Thanks, everyone.